Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. Together we dive into the world of sci-fi and science fiction. From episodes of Star Trek, Star Wars, to The Walking Dead, Resident Evil, all the hot new science fiction movies from the back doors of Marvel or DC. The Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast. You'll never look at science fiction the same way again.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, and I have, I think, allergies to go with all of those A's in the title of this episode. So if my throat is a little scratchy, I do apologize. All of those A's, adaptations, announcements, alliteration. I don't know if there's really alliteration except in the title. I just really like alliteration, and it seemed like a good third A word to put in there. Ooh, I just heard what I said. No, not that A word. I would never use that in the title, and almost never use it in a podcast. So you don't have to worry about that A word. No, this A word is alliteration, or adaptations, or announcements, or allergies. Really just depends on what you're talking about. Anyway, it's Wednesday. It's coming up on the end of September, and I hope you're finally, or maybe not finally, maybe you've been having fall weather for a while. Oh, autumn weather. Let's go with the A. We had some lovely rain here, which is unusual for Northern California, but then today it was almost 100 degrees, so Mother Nature just really needs to go home because she seems to be drunk. So autumn will get here. It's just, it's here on the calendar. It's just not here in Northern California in terms of the weather. But we aren't here to talk about the weather. We're here to talk about sci-fi and fantasy and movies and television and books and comics and whatever else strikes our fantasy. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those announcements and adaptations. First of all, there is a new Zomblieland movie coming out, as I am sure you know, and it keeps popping up on my Facebook and Instagram. There's been a couple of trailers that keep popping up. One with Emma Stone saying that her sister met some guy who's from Berkeley, and then Woody Harrelson gets very, very upset because the guy from Berkeley is a pacifist. I don't know if you're a fan of the first Zombieland movie, but there is a second one coming out quite some time after the first one, and actually 10 years after the first one. The first one came out in 2009. So, it is returning. It stars Jesse Eisenberg, Abigail Breslin, Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, and it is taking place 10 years later, because it wouldn't make sense, because Abigail Breslin has obviously aged. I mean, everybody has aged 10 years, but Abigail Breslin was much younger 10 years ago. When you're a small child and you grow up, 10 years can be a while. So, it is 10 years ago, and they're doing fine. I'd forgotten that they were all named after towns: Columbus, Little Rock, Tallahassee, Wichita. So their little found family has survived and even excelled in the apocalypse. This is according to sciencefiction.com. As we saw in the film's first trailer, they have taken up residence in none other than the White House. I missed that trailer, apparently. But they aren't the only survivors, of course. And if you know anything about watching like Walking Dead or any of those zombie movies, eventually you have to, eventually you have to deal with not only the zombies, but also the other survivors. In the sequel, Zombieland Drouble Tap, they and viewers will be introduced to Nevada, Rosario Dawson, Madison, Zoe Deutsch, Berkeley, even Jogia. I apologize for not knowing how to pronounce that. Yogia. Flagstaff, Thomas Middleditch, and Albuquerque, Luke Wilson. And we have gotten a few glimpses from the various trailers. I saw another one today that did have Jesse Eisenberg in it, and someone that Woody Harrelson said, of course she survived because zombies eat brains and she doesn't have any. Oh, Woody Harrelson. It's just so darkly hilarious in this movie. Nevada's survival seems no surprise, as she seems tough and smart and resourceful. Madison, on the other hand, how is she still alive and so clean? As for Berkeley, it's got to be tough to run from zombies while stoned. And then there are Albuquerque and Flagstaff, who director Ruben Fleischer referred to as the doppelgangers, as they bear a strong resemblance to Tallahassee and Columbus. So there are new posters out, as well as some new trailers, and they show these characters in all of their character glory, if you will. And the one of Woody Harrelson's character, Tallahassee, am I remembering that? Yes, Tallahassee looks very Negan-esque. I mean, he has a bat. I know he came before Negan, but it just reminds me of Negan. Anyway, there is a quote: "We find our heroes from the last movie 10 years later as they're just moving into the White House. Tallahassee has a saying, go big or go home. They kind of took it to heart and went for big and for kind of the biggest and best home they could find. In the 10 years since the first movie, zombies have evolved into different types of zombies. The one that's causing the big threat are the T-800 zombies that are stronger, faster, and harder to kill." Zomblieland Double Tap opens on October 11th, 2018. Hey, this article has a typo in it because the article is dated today, and yet this movie is supposedly opened 11 months ago. Wow, it is. It's so science fiction that it opened in the past, and yet we haven't seen it yet. I don't know. Typo in the article. If I were rude, I would write a nasty, snarky note in the comments, but I am not rude, and I don't like to troll things. It's just a typo. It's an 8 instead of a 9. What else can we talk about? Oh, Zombieland. We'll move from zombies to mystery, and that is that Hulu is adapting the Mysterious Benedict Society into an ongoing series. So if you are thinking about new shows that you might be able to watch sometime in the future, they are, Hulu that is, finalizing a deal to turn Trenton Lee Stewart's The Mysterious Benedict Society into a live-action series. The show will be produced by Sonar Entertainment, 20th Century Fox TV, and Jamie Tarsus's Fanfare. Writers Matt Manfredi and Phil Hay will adapt Stewart's book, and Todd Slavkin and Darren Swimmer will act as showrunners. James Bobbin is attached to direct the pilot. All 5 will serve as executive producers, along with Tarsis and Karen Kayla Sherwood. The Mysterious Benedict Society follows the exploits of 4 gifted kids who are either orphans or are estranged from their parents. The remarkably average, and gifted, let me just tell you, was in quotes. The remarkably average Reynard Rainey Muldoon, Brainy George Sticky Washington, everything he learns sticks to his brain. The athletic and resourceful Katie Weatherall, and the stubborn and intelligent Constance Contraire. The boys are 11 years old, while Kate is 12. As for Constance, it says Kate. Am I noticing another typo? As for Kate, well, just wait and see. The 4 come under the care of the enigmatic Mr. Nicholas Benedict, who sends them to infiltrate the bizarre Learning Institute for the Very Enlightened, or LIVE, possibly live, either way, LIVE, run by Ledroptha Curtin, which is using subliminal signals to incite mass panic and to destabilize the governments of the world, a threat known as the Emergency. The first book, written by Stewart with illustrations by Carson Ellis, was published in 2007 and was followed by The Mysterious Benedict Society and the Perilous Journey in 2008, and The Mysterious Benedict Society and the Prisoner's Dilemma in 2009. The prequel book, The Extraordinary Education of Nicholas Benedict, was published in 2012. The books have been compared to the Lemony Snicket series, which was, of course, turned into a series by Netflix. There was also some movies out of that. Show writers Manfredi and Hay co-wrote the ride-along movies, Destroyer, The Invitation, R.I.P.D., Clash of the Titans, and Aeon Flux, as well as Amazon's TV series The Boys. So I guess my question is, have you read these books? Are you fans of these books? Are you excited? Or as I often am, if you love these books, are you excited that they're being adapted? Are you nervous? I sometimes am more excited when books are adapted into series because you can get more of the details in series as opposed to just a 2 or 3 hour movie. I'm almost always disappointed in everything that's left out when a book is adapted into a movie, but series have potential. So if you are excited, that's great. You will have to check it out. Although at this point it's still just kind of in the beginning phases, so no date as to when it might be released yet. So you'll just have to check in on that. At any rate, it is time to take our first break of the podcast. When we come back, we'll be talking about some more announcements. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast, and I will be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast. We are talking about things that start with A. Today's episode is brought to you by the letter A. Our next announcement is about Jurassic Park, the newest in that franchise. And it turns out that Jeff Goldblum, Laura Dern, and Sam Neill are coming back for Jurassic World 3. I'm wondering if this is exciting news for those of you who are fans of the franchise, if you're worried about how they're going to be brought back. Sometimes when we have characters that we really like in a franchise, and then that franchise is rebooted, it can feel contrived to bring back beloved characters from the previous iteration, but they are coming back for Jurassic World 3. They're reprising their Jurassic Park roles. And, Jeff Goldblum did have a cameo as Dr. Ian Malcolm in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, but most people say that was much too brief. Meanwhile, Dern's Dr. Ellie Sattler and Neil's Dr. Alan Grant haven't appeared in the franchise since Jurassic Park 3. Given how iconic Ellie Sattler was and how questionably the later movies have been treating their female leads, perhaps this will revive the sort of writing that doesn't involve running from dinosaurs in high heels. That is a quote from Tor.com, just in case you were wondering. I don't think you should... granted, why are you wearing heels in a dinosaur park? I don't understand. Okay, so I have to admit I haven't seen the new ones, but I don't know why you would be in a dinosaur park in heels. There's probably a perfectly logical explanation for that. But I'm thinking if you're running from a dinosaur, at least kick those heels off. Don't run in them. At anyway, Jurassic World 3 will be directed by Colin Trevorrow, who gave us the first Jurassic World, and he'll be joined in executive producing duties by Steven Spielberg. According to Deadline, production is expected to begin early next year, so it'll be a while until you can see the third iteration in this reboot. Is it a reboot? Are they sequels? At any rate, there is a picture, a tweet. Jurassic World tweeted, "They're back. Welcome to Jurassic World. Alan Grant, Ellie Sattler, and Ian Malcolm. Hashtag 2021." And there is a picture of the three of them going up a staircase, dinosaur bones, etc. Hashtag Jurassic World. So what do you think? Is this good news? Are you nervous about what this might mean for the franchise? Do you think they'll be brought back in ways that are believable, or if they're just going to kind of be shoved into the script? I really don't know. But moving from that announcement on to another adaptation. You see what I did there? Alliteration. And that is that Matt Reeves is adapting, Clifford D. Simak's Way Station for Netflix. So we've had a Hulu adaptation and now a Netflix adaptation. Way Station is a winner of the Hugo Award. Matt Reeves and his 6th and Idaho production studio have landed the rights to produce a movie adaptation, so not a series this time, of Clifford D. Simak's Hugo Award-winning novel Way Station. A writer is currently being sought to handle the screenplay. Reeves and his 6th and Idaho have a first-look deal with Netflix and are currently developing Animal Farm, Button Man, Idol, and Recursion. For more than 100 years, Enoch Wallace has been the keeper of a way station on Earth for intergalactic alien travels as they teleport across the universe. But the gifts of knowledge and immortality that his intergalactic guests have bestowed upon him are proving to be a nightmarish burden, for they have opened Enoch's eyes to humanity's impending destruction. Still, one final hope remains for the human race. Way Station was originally published under the name Here Gather the Stars in 2 parts in Galaxy magazine in 1963 and was honored with the Hugo Award the following year after it had been released as Way Station in novel form. In the novel, Enoch Wallace is a Civil War veteran and is kept alive for over 100 years. So, that makes sense if this was written in the early 60s, that he was kept alive over 100 years because 1860s for the Civil War. But he was kept alive for over 100 years due to his position. But the government becomes suspicious and begins spying on him during the time of UFO paranoia of the 1950s and 60s. Like many great science fiction works of that period, this story is used as an allegory for the Cold War and addresses themes of peace and war from a science fiction perspective. A television adaptation was previously in development with Revelstone Entertainment in 2004, but that did not come to pass. And this is a standalone story, so most likely it will be a standalone movie, unless it does really, really well, and then I'm sure they'll come up with something. We really like just rolling. This isn't a franchise, but it could be, and we just really enjoy, and by we, I don't know who I mean, the world in general, like just rolling things till the wheels fall off. So if this is well received, I am sure that they will come up with a way to extend it out and make another movie. But at any rate, it's not even in production yet, so why speculate if there's going to be a second one? If you're a fan of Way Station, maybe you are excited about the adaptation. Again, it's hard to tell. It's hard to know what is going to see. And again, this is a movie out of a book, so that always makes me a little leery, especially. And then it's always interesting to see science fiction books that were written in previous decades, because this is, 50 years old, more than 50 years old, how those science fiction books that were written then and then they're made into movies now, sometimes that translates well, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes the technology is so different, and then sometimes because the technology is so different and the book is adapted to be more resonant with technology that we have now, the movie doesn't seem anything like the book because the book was written so long ago. But if it's taking place in the 60s, then maybe they can resolve some of those issues. I don't know the answers to these questions. But another announcement is that HBO and BBC have announced the premiere dates for His Dark Materials. Here again, we have another adaptation. There was a movie previously, but now we are getting a series on Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials series. And it's a co-production, again, between HBO and BBC. It was, promotion was ramped up at CDCC, San Diego Comic-Con, in July, but now it has been revealed when we'll actually be able to watch it. It will first air on BBC One on Sunday, November 3rd, and on HBO the next day, Monday, November 4th. It will be available globally on any HBO network or streaming service, and the first season will consist of 8 episodes. And then there is a quote, "In a reality that exists parallel to our own world, young orphan Lyra Belacqua, Logan's Daphne Keene, continues her rebellious streak at her home of Jordan College until she haphazardly foils an assassination plot against her explorer uncle, Lord Asriel." It Chapter 2's James McAvoy, when he comes to present his recent potentially blasphemous findings to the university. It's the first in a series of mysterious events that propel Lyra on an international journey, followed by a string of child kidnappings, the disappearance of her friend, and the arrival of the enthralling but dangerous Mrs. Coulter, which is the affair's Ruth Wilson. So it's got a very intriguing cast. The cast also includes Lin-Manuel Miranda. Yay. The voice cast includes Helen McCrory, David Suchet, Serafina Piccola. Oh, sorry. That's one of the Damons. Ruda. Oh my gosh. Clearly I can't read. Let me just stop trying to read names here. There's a large cast, and there's some great people in this cast. I am intrigued by this one. I didn't care for the movie. The books, I enjoyed them. It's been a very long time since I've read them. Let's see, probably maybe 15 years since I've read them. I was trying to think. I started reading them when I was in Hawaii during grad school, which sounds much fancier than it actually was. So that would have been 2005, maybe? At any rate. So, about 14, 15 years. And I think it will do better as a series, but I'll just have to see, and I will be intrigued to watch it come November. So we are going to go ahead and take our second break of the podcast. When we come back, we'll be wrapping up this alliterative episode. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast. This episode brought to you by the letter A, Adaptations, Announcements, and now Academy. That is the Umbrella Academy. The Umbrella Academy has, in fact, started production on its second season, according to the show's Twitter account. And they used that Twitter account to share some behind-the-scenes images of the cast as they get back to work. Or, school? They're all adults now. A few of the photos are just the cast goofing off, but there are a few of the actors back in costume, and number 5 has grown. This is what happens when you are the youngest cast member and you have been in the future for a very long time, and then you come back and you're small again, but then you grow. I don't know. At any rate, it seems like maybe he has grown a little bit. Technically, this character is supposed to be immortal and stuck at the same age, but that's the problem when you use a person of a certain age to play a character like that. Well, a person of any age to play an immortal character. The longer a series goes on, the older the actor gets. So they're going to have to come up with ways to either maintain that illusion or give some reason as to why he seems to be getting taller or more mature or whatever. So yeah, there are some pictures. I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but just pictures of the cast in general. But seeing there's one of a picture of them on a roller coaster, and I can't think of their character names at the moment. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. But I don't know, it's making me laugh because it just is, and that is a terrible, terrible, terrible description of somebody who is laughing at a picture that you can't see. But there's Robot Mom. She's so cute. She has the best wardrobe. I love that wardrobe. Poor Robot Mom. And then again, the screaming on the elevator, which makes me laugh, and lots of pictures. So anyway, the Umbrella Academy, if you're not familiar with it, is based on the Dark Horse comic books by writer Gerard Way and artist Gabriel Ba. They chronicle the exploits of a group of young super beings, who were all miraculously born on the same day to women who were not previously pregnant. Eccentric millionaire Reginald Hargreaves managed to adopt 7 of them, who he trained to become crime fighters. The TV version was created by Steve Blackman and Jeremy Slater. The Umbrella Academy launched earlier this year and then was renewed for this second season shortly after premiering. And so we will just have to wait and see what happens in that second series. Are you excited about that? It was also recently announced that the show had added new cast members Ritu Arya, Yusuf Gatewood, and Marin Ireland for the third series. So there you go. New season of the Umbrella Academy. That is a very, very unique premise. I mean, yeah, definitely an interesting show and a different take on some aspects of comics and sci-fi, etc. And speaking of comics, one final story, as I seem to be losing my voice a little bit, and that is that Marvel Comics has added a scene, a missing scene, or one that many people felt was missing from Star Wars: The Force Awakens in a new comic. So, many of us really enjoyed watching it. I mean, I enjoyed watching it, I'll just say that. But at the end, it's been many years now, so if you don't know that Han Solo died in that movie, I'm sorry that I spoiled it for you, but it's been a few years. Anyway, Han Solo dies in that movie. My childhood died with him. At any rate, Princess Leia hugs Rey, but not Chewie. And this is wrong. This is very wrong because she barely even knows Rey. She's known Chewie for years and years and years and years and years. While many people really loved the movie, they were not so very fond that that didn't happen. So they did share this extended hug, and it didn't feel necessarily out of place to many fans at the moment. That changed as time passed, and many people started asking, why wasn't Leia sharing this hug with Chewie? In fact, Chewie just walked past and almost seemed unfazed by the loss of his closest friend of the past few decades. No, Chewie would not just be unfazed. I am sorry, that's not going to happen. Thankfully, though, writer Tom Taylor and artist Ramon Rosano corrected that in their new tale, which was shared in the tweet below. The tweet is from Tom Taylor at Tom Taylor Made. Leia and Chewie didn't hug on screen after Han's death in hashtag Star Wars Age of Resistance. We fixed that. Today we've brought balance. The hug is canon now, and there are several panels. Tiny little short Princess Leia, very tall Chewie, and there's hugging, and it's very sweet. So Tom Taylor also tweeted, check out at Star Wars Age of Resistance hashtag Rey in stores today. The next scene with Leia is one of my favorites of our whole run. So this definitely should have happened in the movie. First off, because now Carrie Fisher and Peter Mayhew are both gone. They've both died. And so, again, parts of my childhood keep dying. But I just think that scene would have been it definitely would have given some poignancy and some, if not, I don't know if closure, but definitely poignancy. So, hopefully this will help. Now it's canon, as the tweet said. Hopefully this will help some people move on from that seeming what seemed like a slight. Let's put it that way. I will have to check out the tweet larger so that I can actually read what Princess Leia is saying to Chewie. But it, just looking at it at a glance, it looks very sweet. And I always liked Chewie and Leia together. I also liked pictures of Carrie Fisher and Peter Mayhew together. Just their height difference was always amazing to me. But at any rate, hopefully this will make some people much happier. And on that happy note, we are going to wrap up this episode of the GSMC Sci-Fi Podcast. Please join me again next time, and we'll find out what's going on in the worlds of sci-fi and fantasy. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sci-Fi Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.